Remembering Axe Handle Saturday, the events here downtown and the fight against hate. I'm Alex Ositis on your side tonight.
Hurricane Laura deals a devastating blow to the Texas and Louisiana coast. A stark reminder that storms can deal damage both here at home and abroad. I'm Troy Kless with more on this story tonight, starting on First Coast News at 5.
A sporting event in Jacksonville? What? There's going to be fans there? He said, what? Details downtown coming up.
This is First Coast News on your side.
And welcome to First Coast News at 5. We are glad you're with us because we have a lot going on tonight. I'm Jeannie Blaylock.
And I'm Anthony Austin. Our top story tonight, it was a horrible event in our city's history. It's been 60 years since Axe Handle Saturday, and on August 27th of 1960, young black civil rights activists were brutally attacked by white men wielding axe handles and baseball bats. This all happened in what is now known as James Weldon Johnson Park, formerly Hemming Park. Today, a commemorative sit-in was sponsored by the NAACP, the Center for Urban Education and Policy. Also, Leadership is for Everyone. That organization also hosted, along with a number of other people and also companies. Mayor Lenny Curry tweeted today, quote, "Today is a solemn day in our city, the anniversary of Axe Handle Saturday, a day to remember the transgressions of our past and resolve to create a better, more perfect future for all Jacksonville citizens. Hashtag one city, one Jax." Although the mayor's office did say they don't think he was invited to today's event. And we do have live team coverage for you on the anniversary tonight. Ken Amaro has been speaking with community members about what this anniversary means to them. But first, we want to start with Alex Ositis, who spoke with Rodneyhurst, a man who has dedicated his life to fighting injustices and documenting what it has meant and continues to mean to be living while black in America. Alex.
Anthony, Rodneyhurst was 16 years old when he was finishing up a sit-in at a lunch counter over on Adams Street. He was walking up Laura, and that's when he saw a group of white men wielding axe handles starting to beat people. Only a few pictures and clips exist from Axe Handle Saturday, but the memories and stories have survived, told on the 60th anniversary. Rodneyhurst led the NAACP's Youth Council through sit-ins in 1960. He led against hate, recalling the sights of blacks beaten by white men just feet from where he was standing. He says in the years since, the fight for equality continues, joined Thursday by politicians, members of the community, and religious leaders.
We understood fighting racism was then, is now a marathon. But we were prepared to do it then, as many are prepared to do it now.
Ahead at 5:30, how a teenager today is hoping that his words are going to make a difference. I'll have that story coming up at 5:30. But first, I want to turn things over to my colleague on your side's Ken Amaro.
Thank you, Alex. I'm over here at A. Philip Randolph Boulevard, where behind me you can see a large mural on the building paying homage to Axe Handle Saturday. Due to the pandemic, today's commemoration was both virtual and physical, so it's hard to tell how many were in attendance. But those who were on hand told me that this story needs to be told over and over again.
Almost no film footage survives of Axe Handle Saturday.
In the crowd, those who were there August 27, 1963. It was the day before the March on Washington.
We came around by the old Robert Meyer Hotel.
By sunset, the day would leave an ugly bloodstained page in Jacksonville's race relations history.
Axe handles was everywhere. People were running, screaming.
Adam Dubois was at the James Weldon Johnson Park for the 60th commemoration of Axe Handle Saturday.
It was crazy, all day and all night.
Dubois reflected on how and when he and his friends from the nearby Blodgett Homes housing complex pulled some of the protesters to safety.
As we ushered them out, we went back around by the Robert Meyer Hotel and back toward the Blodgett home.
Dubois says the next generation needs to know this history. He's disappointed that after 6 decades, The Black community is still crying out for justice.
Still crying, still being. I worked there in Macon during my years in school in 1960. I was working in Macon. I worked there and couldn't eat there.
Dubois told me he understands the need for this day of remembrance. He hopes that the entire community of all ethnicity feels the same way. The celebration or the commemoration will continue here on A. Philip Randolph until 7 o'clock tonight. Ken Amero, First Coast News, on your side.
Thank you, Ken. Once again, he said today is a day of remembrance. I do want to say something about that because I saw a few social media comments asking why we were covering this today, that some people thought it was divisive and maybe we were, quote, stirring the pot. But this is not something of fiction. This is fact. This is something that actually happened and we must remember it. And for more on the event today and the history of Axe Handle Saturday, you can go to our website, firstcoastnews.com.
The Kenosha, Wisconsin police officer who shot Jacob Blake has now been identified as Rustin Shesky, a 7-year veteran. Police say he shot Blake 7 times in the back. And now the Department of Justice has announced that it is investigating this shooting. On Tuesday night, a 17-year-old from Illinois murdered 2 of the protesters in Kenosha and injured a 3rd. Police let him leave, but later arrested him at his home and took him into custody. The protests have inspired further action across the United States, including in professional sports. So, Anthony, let's talk a little bit more about that right now, what's going on in the sports world.
Yeah, we want to turn things over to our sports director, Chris Porter, now. And Chris, the spotlight really on our athletes right now when it comes to social injustice.
Yeah, we saw the NBA players boycott their playoff games last night. And today, last I checked, 7 NFL teams canceled their practice. The Jaguars decided to practice after a 2-hour meeting and a team vote. A vote that came down to just one single vote in the decision to practice today, 37-36. Now, this is video from about 3 months ago when the Jaguars were led by running back Leonard Fournette, a protest on the streets of downtown Jacksonville, demanding equality for blacks and police reform. As for today's meeting prior to practice, Doug Marrone said it was very emotional, with his players saying enough is enough and where's the actionable change? DJ Chark saying he would support an NFL protest. Chris Conley saying we cannot stop pressing until something happens. Here's Marrone talking about what he feels are the greatest challenges in the effort to try and really get some change.
You know, I think that what you mentioned is the greatest challenge. You know, of what is actionable. You know, I started thinking about things, writing things down. I kind of told the players, kind of went through my mind, like I've got to educate myself on how to understand what are the avenues to go on, and we've touched on some, whether it be voting, whether it be meeting with politicians and meeting with this, but what for change, what has to be done.
Now back to the NBA, we were told that there were some indications that the players were considering ending the season entirely, but they met late last night and again this morning and decided to continue with the season. Also, the NBA has not said when those playoff games will be rescheduled. As for the Jaguars, Marrone reiterated again today they are committed to helping in this change. Jeannie?
All right, very serious business there. Thank you so much, Chris. The University of North Florida's Kappa Sigma chapter has gotten a letter of expulsion after the university found the organization responsible for, quote, sexual misconduct, endangerment, harassment, and more. The alleged incident happened in February 2019, according to the expulsion letter. We're working now to get more information.
Also breaking tonight, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office is reporting a shooting over on 5th Street. Officers will be giving an update, we're told, in about 20 minutes. So as soon as that happens, we will bring you that update. Jeannie.
Thanks, Anthony. We are still, of course, tracking Laura. Hurricane Laura made landfall at 1 a.m. this morning near Cameron, Louisiana, about 35 miles east of the Texas border. This is a satellite image showing the massive size of this storm. And in Lake Charles, Louisiana, a veteran reporter gets a bit more than she bargained for. What you just saw there, that's Weather Channel meteorologist Stephanie Abrams. She ducks because falling glass was just plummeting to the ground there. She was at the Golden Nugget Hotel and Casino in Lake Charles, Louisiana, as Hurricane Laura came ashore, packing wind gusts of 100 miles per hour. She did get hit by that broken glass, but thankfully she was not hurt, but a very dangerous situation there. And Laura is the strongest storm to make landfill in Louisiana since 1856. Turns out it was even stronger than Hurricane Katrina. This is some damage in Lake Charles. You can see the homes underwater there, trees lying on houses, just severe damage to roofs if they're even still on, and to tops of buildings. Texas was also hit by the damaging winds and the rains of Hurricane Laura. Governor Greg Abbott took an aerial tour of that damage today. Here is more from Orange, Texas, with what's happening there right now.
As you drive through the streets of Orange, Texas, right here on the Texas-Louisiana state line, this is what you see. Tree branch debris, in some cases the trees uprooted. You've got debris from the roofs of buildings, and then, yes, you even have buildings like this one behind me that have been extensively damaged. The storm passed through Orange, but really veered towards Louisiana. That's where most of the damage was, the brunt of the damage. That's where the storm made landfall. That's about 30 miles to the east of here is where Lake Charles, Louisiana is. We do know that we're monitoring the power situation. More than 400,000 were left without power at last check, and it could be a while until they get that power back on. But we also know at this hour that those relief operations, those search and rescue operations, they have begun, they are underway now that Hurricane Laura has passed through. In Orange, Texas, I'm Chris Sadeghi. Now back to you.
And from a tropical storm to a deadly hurricane, Hurricane Laura rapidly intensified, causing widespread damage to areas of Louisiana and Texas. And for some, it's a reminder that storms like this should not be taken lightly. All Your Side's Troy Kless has the story and the science behind the storm.
I used to live in southeast Texas, where Hurricane Laura left behind some of its devastation, both there and in southwest Louisiana. It's a reminder that whether we're here in Jacksonville or out along the coast, that these hurricanes can deal damage no matter where they land.
The devastating impacts of Hurricane Laura, Lake Charles, Louisiana, which saw damaging winds and storm surge rip through the area. Laura quickly strengthened from a tropical storm to a Category 4 hurricane.
When you see a storm increase its wind speeds from a tropical storm to a Cat 4 in a 24-hour period, an intensification, what we call rapid intensification, that's 65-mile-per-hour winds higher. Yes, that's when we get our biggest storms and the ones that rewrite the record books.
And Laura did. The Texas Gulf Coast is no stranger to strong hurricanes. It was hit hard by Harvey in 2017, which experienced torrential rainfall for that storm. But for some who evacuated the area this time around, it was a reminder of other strong storms.
Kind of reminds me of Rita, Hurricane Rita.
Whether it's Laura or storms like Irma that impact the First Coast, it's a reminder to take them seriously. More on what residents are feeling as they return home to assess the damage at 6. Troy Kless, First Coast News, on your side.
Great story, Troy. Thank you for that. And hey, we are continuing to, of course, watch Laura as it moves across the Mississippi, Tennessee, Ohio valleys and through the mid-Atlantic into the weekend. But it's interesting to look at Laura's quadrants versus the storm reports that we saw. Now, the front right quadrant, as you may have heard us say before, is where we see the maximum impact. The front left, we still see significant surge, whereas the bottom right is the significant wind quadrant, and the bottom left is really the weakest, but of course still dangerous, especially when we're talking about a Category 4 storm. Now look at these storm reports. First of all, the tornadic reports are going to come in as we head throughout the next couple of days, but 50 miles are where those storm reports extend on the left side of the storm, and on the right side, they extend about 100 miles from the center.
All Elite Wrestling, sports in Jacksonville with fans. It's got to be some sort of 2020 record. We'll talk about it and what it means for the Khan family after the break.